They wear animal costumes. They create characters with names, stories, and emotions. But this isn't just cosplay or performance art. It's something deeper. The furry fandom is one of the most misunderstood subcultures in the world. Often judged, sometimes mocked, rarely understood. In this video, we're going to explore who furries really are and why some people feel more themselves when acting like animals. When most people hear the word furry, they often picture animal costumes and eccentric behavior. But that's just the surface. At its core, the furry community is made up of people who are interested in anthropomorphic animals. Animals with human traits like speech, emotions, or intelligence. Think of cartoon animals, video game characters, or fantasy creatures. For some, it's simply a creative hobby, drawing, role-playing, or joining online communities. For others, it becomes a meaningful part of their identity. Many furries create what's called a fursona, a personalized character that represents their inner self. It might be a fox, a wolf, a dragon, any creature that feels right to them. Furry culture is about more than just aesthetics. It's about expression, imagination, and finding a space where people can be themselves, without judgment or expectations from the outside world. To an outsider, it might seem strange. Why would grown adults wear tails, ears, or even mimic animal behavior? But behind these choices lies something deeper than just play. It's rooted in psychology and culture. For many furries, it's a way to escape the pressure of social norms. In everyday life, we're constantly expected to behave, look, and express ourselves a certain way. The furry community offers a space where people can drop those expectations and live out an alternative version of themselves, one that feels freer and more authentic. Often, the animal persona, or fursona, is used to express parts of someone's personality that might be hard to show in daily life. Gentleness, aggression, playfulness, introversion. The animal becomes a kind of metaphor, a symbol of who they are inside. And let's not forget the element of fantasy and creativity. For many, the love for anthropomorphic characters began in childhood, through cartoons, comics, or video games. The furry identity is often a continuation of that imaginative world, expressed in a more adult and artistic way. One of the most persistent stereotypes about furries is that it's all about sex. And yes, this perception is everywhere. Memes, late-night talk shows, even news reports have painted the fandom as nothing more than a bizarre fetish. But how true is that really? The reality is more complex. Like in any large community, there's a wide range of people with different interests and boundaries. Yes, some members explore adult content within the fandom, but that doesn't define the entire group. In fact, for many furries, the experience is completely non-sexual and centers around art, friendship, creativity, and self-expression. It's similar to how people dress up for cosplay or roleplay in fantasy settings. Not everything is about kink. But when something looks unusual or breaks social norms, it's often reduced to the most sensational explanation. That's why the furry equals fetish idea stuck so strongly in mainstream culture. By understanding this nuance, we can start to see the furry community not as something creepy, but as a creative and multifaceted subculture with its own rules, values, and reasons for existing. So, what actually brings people into the furry fandom? For many, it starts with art. The community is rich with illustrators, animators, writers, and world builders who create vibrant characters known as fursonas, animal alter egos that reflect aspects of a person's personality, identity, or fantasy life. But it goes deeper. Furry culture is about belonging. A lot of people who join the fandom have felt like outsiders elsewhere, whether because of their interests, their identity, or just being different. The furry community becomes a place where they can finally be accepted without judgment. And then there's the community itself, online forums, group chats, conventions, meetups. It's not just about dressing up. It's about creating shared experiences and building friendships across the globe. Some even say they found their closest friends or partners through the fandom. It's a subculture that values creativity, inclusivity, and freedom of expression. Whether you're into digital art, costume design, role-playing, or just vibing with like-minded people, furry culture offers a space where your weird is welcome. Let's talk about the fursuits. For outsiders, they're often the first thing that comes to mind when they hear furry. But in reality, only a small portion of the community actually owns one. Why? Because these custom suits can cost thousands of dollars and take months to make by hand. So why do people wear them? First off, it's a form of creative expression. Just like cosplay, it's about bringing a character to life. But for furries, it's often more personal because that character represents a piece of themselves. Second, it creates a unique social experience. Fursuiters often describe feeling more confident or free when in character, like they can drop their social anxieties and just connect with others in a playful, exaggerated way. And third, it's just fun. Dancing, performing, making people smile. It's performance art with a tail. Sure, it might look strange from the outside, but once you step into their shoes, pause, you start to understand that it's not about escaping reality. It's about enhancing it. The furry fandom has dealt with a lot of misconceptions, from being labeled as weirdos to far worse. A lot of this started in the early 2000s, when media outlets and internet forums cherry-picked the most extreme or unusual aspects of the community. These stories went viral, and suddenly, furry became a punchline. Cartoons, late-night shows, Reddit threads, they all jumped in. The truth? Most of it was overblown or taken out of context. Yes, like any large group, the fandom has its fringe elements, but so do sports fans, gamers, and any subculture. What got lost in the noise is that most furries are just people expressing creativity, forming friendships, and building community. And here's something the headlines never mention. Many furry groups organize charity events, support LGBTQ youth, and create art and safe spaces for people who never felt like they fit in elsewhere. So why the hate? Because the fandom challenges norms. It's colorful, loud, and unapologetically different, and that makes it an easy target. But if you take a closer look, you'll find a story not of shock, but of belonging. So, where are the furries now? You might think the fandom faded after the 2010s, but actually, it's thriving more than ever. Furry conventions are back in full force, with thousands attending events like Anthrocon, Midwest Fur Fest, and Eurofurence. Some even rival anime or comic cons in scale. And with platforms like TikTok, a new generation of furries has taken over. The aesthetic is more polished, more diverse, and more visible. Fursuits have evolved too, from homemade costumes to high-end wearable art. But it's not just about the suits. The furry fandom has grown into a global creative movement, with original webcomics, music, animations, and even games created by furries for furries. At the same time, the community has matured. There are real discussions about inclusivity, boundaries, and protecting younger members from harmful content. It's not perfect. No community is. But it's learning. Is this a renaissance? Absolutely. Furry culture is no longer lurking in obscure forms. It's out in the open, reshaping how we see identity, creativity, and fandom itself. So, what if furries aren't the weirdos we've made them out to be? What if, behind the fursonas and costumes, it's just a bunch of people trying to find belonging, creativity, and self-expression in a world that often feels cold and disconnected? Yes, it's unusual. Yes, it challenges social norms. But maybe that's the point. Furries aren't pretending to be animals. They're exploring what it means to be human. If you enjoyed this dive into subculture, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, which subculture should I cover next?